This story is The Babe and I. The story is set in 1932 in New York City during the Great Depression. The Great Depression is a time when nobody had any money, which means that they were poor. Our story is set around a little boy and his birthday. So the boy had a birthday party, and he very, very much wanted a bicycle. But because of the Great Depression, his family could not buy him the bicycle. Instead, they gave him 10 cents. This made the boy very sad. The boy met his friend named Jacob, and he bought them 2 apples. When they were walking and eating their apples, they saw the boy's dad selling 2 apples. This surprised the boy because the dad had been lying and saying he had a job. But in reality, because of the Great Depression, the boy's dad did not have a job. So, the boy was very sad by this and decided to go and sell newspapers with his friend Jacob. So, the boy and Jacob were having a hard time selling newspapers. But Jacob figured out that if they stood near the baseball stadium and talked about Babe Ruth, they would be able to sell newspapers. So the boys would stand outside the stadium and scream, "Babe Ruth hit a home run!" And this would attract people going to the stadium to buy their newspapers. The boy would use his money and give it to his family and put it in a money jar. Okay? And this money jar was for the whole family. And this way, he could help his dad, who was selling apples. However, the mom and the son were not supposed to know that the dad was selling apples. So the boy had to keep it a secret that he knew. So every day, the boy would go and sell newspapers. But the boy had a problem. He could not sell enough newspapers. So he asked Miss Johnson if he could borrow her baby carriage and use it to carry newspapers. So that way he could carry many newspapers and sell many more newspapers. So the boy continued to sell newspapers, but this time with a carriage. Miss Johnson let the boy borrow the carriage for 10 cents every night. And so that way, the boy made many, many more money by using the baby carriage. However, the dad found out because he saw his son with the carriage of newspapers. And so the dad talked to Mrs. Johnson and learned his son was selling newspapers. This embarrassed the dad because he felt sad about having help from his younger son. His son thought that selling apples was a job, but the dad did not agree. he felt that selling apples was not a job. So the dad was very sad that his son was helping him. The dad also asked his son if he had seen him selling apples on Webster Avenue. And the son said yes. And so this made the son cry because he was sad that his son saw him selling apples and that his son knew he did not have a job. So the next day, the boy was selling newspapers again, but this time Babe Ruth was not playing. So they were having a harder time selling newspapers because they could not use Babe Ruth's name. So the boy was very sad. But Babe Ruth came and bought the boy's newspaper for $5 whole. The boy was so happy, but because Babe Ruth was in a suit and not his baseball uniform, the boy did not recognize Babe Ruth. But Jacob told the boy that it was in fact Babe Ruth who bought his newspaper for $5. The boy was so happy that he used the $5 to buy Jacob and himself tickets to the baseball game. And so the boy and Jacob sat down and watched the baseball game together. And that's when the boy realized that Babe Ruth and him were on the same team, because Babe Ruth would hit home runs, which would help the boy sell newspapers to make money. Also, the boy realized him and his dad were on the same team, because the dad was selling apples to make money for the family, and the boy was selling newspapers to make money for the family. So they were both trying to help the family. And in that way, the family was able to get through the tough times that was the Great Depression.